From Drop Biscuit Studios and the people who brought you Wondery's Inside Jaws, Inside The Exorcist, and Inside Psycho comes You Talking to Me? Bite-sized Hollywood history with plenty of bite. The famous debate over rock porn. This is You Talking to Me? I'm Mark Ramsey. Once upon a time, now more than 35 years ago, the wife of the man who would one day be Vice President of the United States, Tipper Gore, was shopping for music for her 11-year-old daughter. Now, these were the days when music came on vinyl and cassettes, and the smash hit album of the moment was a soundtrack to a hugely popular R-rated film, Purple Rain. The artist who created that movie and album was the legendary Prince, and it was the one record Tipper's daughter had to have. Now, I think it's safe to say that Prince was never shy, and his lyrics were often bold and bawdy. There was Darling Nikki, a song whose first verse contains a lyric about a girl named Nikki masturbating with a magazine. Well, all it took was one listen to this track with her preteen daughter singing along, and Tipper Gore hit the roof. It may seem almost quaint by today's musical standards, but at the time, the S word hit the fan and the fallout sprayed all over the music industry. Tipper Gore took action. With her friends, wives of senators, wives of cabinet members, wives of prominent DC business types, she created the Parents Music Resource Council, or PMRC. Their mission was to shine a spotlight on those nasty lyrics and the artists who delighted in them. They wanted the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, to have records, tapes, and CDs labeled for their objectionable content. There was a widely publicized and highly puritanical Senate hearing about what came to be called rock porn. Fears were stoked that the evils of rock music were the root causes of societal tragedies like child sex abuse and teen suicide. As Insider memorably put it, here you had the members of the world's greatest deliberative body clutching their proverbial pearls over a Prince record. The PMRC put out a list of what they called the 50-15, tracks that reflected what Gore called the twisted tyranny of explicitness in the public domain. Among the titles on that list was Madonna's song Dress You Up, a tune which would later achieve the ultimate in mainstream exposure as the soundtrack for a Gap commercial. In a book Tipper Gore wrote around that time called Raising PG Kids in an X-Rated Society, she said this: "Like many parents, I grew up listening to rock music and loving it, but something has happened since the days of Twist and Shout." That's right, Twist and Shout, a song abjectly about sex. Oh, logic be damned, full speed ahead. During the hearings, several musicians testified. Frank Zappa, Twisted Sister frontman Dee Snider, even for some inexplicable reason, the uber safe for the whole family, John Denver, all passionately defended artistic freedom over what they termed censorship. Frank Zappa tore into the PMRC. "This proposal is an ill-conceived piece of nonsense," he said, "which fails to deliver any real benefits to children, infringes on the civil liberties of people who are not children, and promises to keep the courts busy for years dealing with the interpretation and enforcement problems inherent in the proposal's design. It is my understanding that in law, First Amendment issues are decided with a preference for the least restrictive alternative. In this context, the PMRC's demands are the equivalent of treating dandruff by decapitation." He continued, "The PMRC's list of demands reads like an instruction manual for some sinister kind of toilet training program to housebreak all composers and performers because of the lyrics of a few." That was followed by a heated exchange between Senator Al Gore and Dee Snider, the frontman of Twisted Sister, who introduced himself as a father, a Christian, who neither drinks nor does drugs. "Twisted Sister has a fan club," Gore began. "Its initials are SMF. What do those initials stand for?" "They stand for Sick Motherfucking Friends of Twisted Sister," Snider replied. "Is this also a Christian group?" Gore asked, amid laughter from the crowd. I don't believe profanity has anything to do with Christianity, Snyder answered. On that day, rockers struck a blow for freedom, but they also lost the argument. Indeed, the RIAA was under tremendous pressure from Congress and the harsh glare of the public spotlight, so they folded. The RIAA agreed to tack on stickers to objectionable content reading parental advisory explicit lyrics. Such labels were the equivalent of a scarlet letter to many big box retailers who moved most of the music in those days. Walmart and others wouldn't sell these albums. Artists were stigmatized and in some cities, banned. In today's digital, no-label world, all this seems doty and old-fashioned, and it is. But it had very real impact on artists and music back in the 80s. Meanwhile, the bearers of the anti-censorship message, the experts on common sense civics and the Constitution which enshrines them, they would prove to be not the future vice president or his horrified spouse, but the scary glam metal rocker, the Rocky Mountain folkie, and the weirdo composer of nonconformist improvisational sound experiments. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening right now, and give us a 5-star rating if you are so inclined. That's you talking to me. I'm Mark Ramsey.